what's going on? I'm Spencer Tillis.
And I'm Haley Mylon.
And this is the Delmarva Sports Insider. Coming up in just a bit in today's episode. The summer season is quickly coming to a close. It was championship week for the Chesapeake League. As Denton took on Cambridge, we're going to have highlights in just a bit.
And Strutters taking on the Orioles. Lots of hits, lots of runs. We'll have those highlights coming up.
As well as another full week of transfers, commitments, and offers. We'll get you caught up on all of our brightest stars that are moving around, jumping from one school to another, and exactly what it means to the power down here in the Bayside, as a lot of opportunities change right there. But we got to start with the championship game that had everybody talking last night over in Snow Hill. Now, we've been following the Supreme League all season long. A lot of build-up in this thing. Glen Riddle, a team comprised of basically all Y-High teams, really kind of surprised a lot of people so far. They came in, a lot of young players. They're scrappy, they're tough. They had the 1 seed, but they still had to go up against those champs. The host team, MD Supreme, well, they could get all they could handle early on. St. Gary Bradell going to work, gets the behind-the-back dribble, gets in the lane, and hits the floater for 2. But back comes Glen Riddle. Matt Lowe, baseline drive right here, hangs and hits. Good body control for the bucket. But there was something going on at the other side, and something you're going to see a lot this year. The fast break, Kaveh Aluma, get up, woo, young fella. Hammers that right thing there home with 2 hands. Glen Riddle would be able to take a 2-point lead in the break, though. John Taylor, the outlet to Jaden Baker, he's going to be a freshman, and he is going to be special. They had the lead second half, though. Back comes Team Supreme, and they did it with the long ball. It's Caven Voiles right there hitting a 3. Shortly after that, they're going to get another one by Mike Beja on the corner. But this would be the game right here. 10 seconds left. Tied ball game before Voiles attacks the basket. Gets the layup to give his team a lead. Now Glen Riddle with their last opportunity. The full court pass. It leads to an uncontested layup at the buzzer by Lowe. And are you kidding me? It's off the front of the limb, leaves it just that short right there. MD Supreme, they survived somehow, some way, 51-49 the final.
My coach told me, he came out of timeout, he was like, I want to put it on your shoulder. He said 1-4 flat. He said, get to the basket. And if I didn't make it, everybody would just crash. I just went to the left, finished high above with confidence, and I made it.
Tell you what, unreal finish. As soon as it happened, both coaches came over and talked to me afterwards and just like, you know, it would have been apropos for them to go to overtime. They've been playing each other tough throughout the entire season, but, I mean, that is about as close as you can get. And I got to give Lowe some love. I mean, he had a good game going to that. He hit 2 free throws with a minute left that gave them a 1-point lead. I mean, he had played great. It just, when the clock's going in your mind, you're rushing, you're trying to get that off, and he just left it a little bit too short. But there seems to be a blueprint from this league on how to beat Decatur, which if you would have asked me at the start of the summer after getting Bradell, I would have said there would have been nobody that could beat him. Losing, obviously, a couple big transfers is going to hurt Decatur. They don't have the depth that they did. But if you can get out and run with them a little bit, and as long as they play man, and for the life of me, I can't figure out why this team is playing man defense when if they play zone, there's not a team around that's going to be able to stop them with Kaveh just clogging up the paint right there. But if they play man, and if you can get out in transition and hit your shots a little bit, you can hang with them. And I tell you what, Glen Riddle, Y-High, they're tough, and that Baker kid, he's going to be the real deal.
Not going to lie, though, I was kind of, in hindsight, pulling for Lowe to make that layup.
That's tough.
How
That's a tough way for a game to end.
That would have been a play of the week,
yeah,
I have to say. Now, this week we had the championship of the Chesapeake Basketball League with Denton facing off against Cambridge, South Dorchester. Denton's David Bailey Jr. misses the first shot, but he's aggressive to the board, puts it back up underneath for 2. CSD backcourt, it was lit. Yeah, I said lit, Spencer. That's okay. Right. Here's Kobe Jones for the corner 3, and Niall Thompson for the tray. And Trey on the fast break, he lays it in and gets the and-1 finish. This is a good move right there. Hesitation, body control off the glass. It's nicely done right there. That play cuts CSD's 15-point deficit down to 9. Bailey Jr. on the drive here, sees the floor well, kicks it out to Jaquan Murray for 3. They keep building Denton's lead. Denton takes this one 51-38. Now that's impressive for Denton. Steve Perry getting a dominant win over a solid Cambridge team. Pretty good start for his new regime in Denton, wouldn't you say? Absolutely. Yeah, he comes from Sussex Tech, but before that, he was actually coaching at North Carolina. He could really take his former team in a positive direction as he begins this new season. Yeah, it's really interesting that what happened with North Carolina, the transition, then losing the coach that they had, and he'd been there for a long time.
And then obviously bringing in Perry, an established coach, the guy that had been there before, kind of trying to bring back that program. But this is a big start for him. I mean, the Summer League right there, that's the team that you're going to have. A lot of people think North Carolina might be a dark horse in the North this year. They play pretty tough. They got some good athletes out there. But Cambridge is always good. I mean, Vic Burns is always going to have his team playing some solid defense. They're going to get after it. Niall's probably the best point guard, at least top 2 in the North. I mean, they're going to control the pace a lot of times. But this is a good start for Perry and good signs ahead. So it looks like, at least right now, a good hire for him. Well, let's talk a little baseball. The regional tournament was underway for our semi-pro teams out of the Eastern Shore League, and it started off in pool play. We had an opportunity to see some of our teams in action yesterday, and we had a good game as Tri-County took on the Maryland Monarchs, that is. The game originally scheduled for the day before got postponed with a little weather. The Monarchs were up 5-0, but Tri-County came to play. Our boys get a rally start in the 6th. Zach Correa beats that one out for an infield single. And that would set this up. Runners on 2nd and 3rd for Brett Adams, and he hits this one to center. That's good for an RBI base knock as Correa comes in on the play. Tri-County not done just yet. This time it's J.D. Correa. He hits one to 2nd. That's good for an RBI fielder's choice as Eric Weiser comes on in. They cut the deficit to 3, but that is about as close as they were going to get because the Monarchs would be able to close this thing out. They get the blow-by for the strikeout right there. Tri-County drops this thing 5-2 the final, and they don't make it out of pool play, which means their season comes doing a pretty good run for them regardless. The more interesting thing that's going to go on with this right now is the state of the league. I mean, there's so much history ingrained in this Eastern Shore Baseball League. And talking with a lot of guys, the higher-ups there, they're not exactly sure where it's going to be going right now. There's only 3 teams that made it after the season. They started with 4. One of them dropped out. And then even of the 3, only really one team was the Strutters were kind of able to bring in numbers every single game where they didn't have to forfeit. 2 of the other teams had a bunch of forfeits. They weren't getting enough guys out there. And there's actual talk about whether or not this league will go under, and they're going to decide in the next couple months. And if that happens, that's going to be hard to see because there's so much rich history with them. It's just the league. It's also tough watching it where it is right now because it used to be so much better. They used to have 14 teams just in our conference alone, and they were down to 3 this year. So, I mean, it has dropped off. They got to make a decision. Either way,
so they're having trouble finding local talent who could fill a team?
Yeah, a lot of guys are now doing travel ball. A lot of guys are going elsewhere to play during the summer, and not too many people are staying here, and that league's kind of suffering because of it.
Well, from my understanding, you're a bit of an athlete. Why don't you go out?
I'm not a baseball athlete. No one wants to see that. I don't want to see that. No one at home wants to see that.
All right, well, sticking with the Eastern Shore League, the Strutters were facing off against the Orioles. They started out with a regular season record of 21-3. Now, early on in the game, Tyler Itner was looking good on the mound for the O's. He gets the strikeout there. Strutters would get to him, though, with a 2-out rally here. Just too bad. Joel Mayer hits a fly ball to shallow center. This is interesting. Riley Lazick couldn't get a good read on it. It looks like he lost it in the sun. He also lost his sunglasses there. A run would score, and it's 1-0 Strutters. Here's Chris Revel with the soft liner to left field. That scores another run. Strutters now has the 2-0 lead. Itner, though, gets himself out of a jam right here with strike 3. Strutters goes on to win 4-0. But since they dropped their first 2 games of pool play, they're done for the season. They finished with a regular season record of 21-3. They had a solid run too, but too bad they just couldn't make it out of pool play. It's always good to go out on a win. You never want to go out on a loss, but they got the win even when the game didn't count.
It's tough they didn't get out of pool play because that was literally the greatest season that team has ever had. I mean, normally Purdue dominates that conference. They had a really down year, kind of open up the window for somebody else to go through. And the Strutters, I mean, they punched down the door. I mean, they came in, had a great year. McCabe, they were the only team that really had a lot of veteran leadership in this conference that really showed through. But, I mean, with that means the entire season is done for us because those are the last 2 teams that we had playing. So the Eastern Shore League is done for this year, and, left to be said whether or not it'll actually come back. So we'll have to wait around and see what happens there. But it's time for our first commercial break. Coming up next, we're going to talk a little softball. One of our local teams is getting ready to play in the World Series in front of a national audience. Keep it right here.
I'm Danny Bates. I play Pokemon Field Hockey, and you're watching Delmarva Sports Insider.